Zach Neilson.
My guy.
So for the people that may not know,
Yes.
who are you? What do you do? And what's going on?
Well, we're going to need longer than an hour to to describe that. No, Zach Neilson. I'm a real estate agent. I've been in the real estate industry a long time, mainly on the corporate side, transitioned to doing it for myself now. It was a challenge I wanted to take on. Typically, they say, you're mid-30s. People want you to be established in what you're doing. I've been established in the industry, but I saw an opportunity to kind of change the space a little bit and really grow. So real estate is my focus. Real estate development as well. We've got a bunch of development projects on the go, which is super exciting. I love the investment space. I love looking at real estate as an asset and teaching people how they can build out their real estate portfolio. And what's on the go now is exactly that. It's all work. It's a lot of work, but because of somebody like you, I'm incorporating a lot of love on the social as well, which is good. It gives people an opportunity to see my personality a little bit more, which I think is super important, and it's nice to kind of break it up a little bit. So I like to make people laugh. I do some charity work. I just did Laugh for the Cure. I would say it was the funniest act they had. No big deal. And then we do a bunch of other things as well. I'm going to line up with a couple other charities and stuff like that, and play hockey and just staying active, man.
Yeah.
Just trying to stay at my peak.
I love that.
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, I help you with your marketing.
Yes.
But one thing I've known Zach my whole life. His mom, so Zach's a bit older than me, so we didn't go to school together.
That's right.
But I went to school with his siblings, and his mom used to carpool me to school in the morning. Right. So we go way back.
Way back.
But one thing I've always noticed about you is you're wildly confident. You probably have deep self-belief. You have conviction around your language. Have you always been that way?
No, definitely not. I think we're all driven by certain things, whether it's pride, trauma, you name it. We all have something that drives us.
Yeah.
I think when I was younger, I was driven a lot more by fear. And so it was a confidence that might not have been real. It might not have been authentic. Yeah. Once you go through trials and tribulations in life and you start to realize that at the end of the day, all you have is you. Yeah. I rebuilt myself, and it was in my late 20s where I started to really take responsibility for everything in my life, my words, my actions, the decisions that I make, the opportunities that I accept or that I turn down. And when I pivoted that, my confidence became a lot more authentic and real. I had already had the persona because I had built it. Yeah. Then it became actually building putting in place the building blocks behind it so that you could stand on what you really believe and be the person that you want to be. So it actually came a lot later. I've always had the tools, the gift of the gab, let's say. But until I started putting the work in, it wasn't as authentic as it is now.
What still makes you insecure?
It's a great question. I think insecurities come from not doing the work up front. I don't like to walk into something and not be prepared. And I've always said that when you get opportunities, if you aren't prepared for them or you're not willing to put the time in to prepare for them, they will most likely pass you by. You will find a reason for it not to succeed. You'll either self-sabotage it or the person will see through it. Yeah. And I've always been grateful because the person that I am and the opportunities that I've had, people have always let me be in the room. But I don't want to be that person who's just in the room. Yeah. And so if you don't want to be just the person in the room, you better put the work in so you can provide value. So you get invited back into the rooms and more opportunities come your way. So insecurity comes for me, it's self-driven of you're not doing enough. Yeah. Do more.
What was a room that you were in that changed your life?
That's a great question. I love it. The room that I would say had the biggest impact on me probably would have been the first time I walked into the boardroom at Unreserved, and there was an entire team of people there, and I was being put into a position where I needed to run this meeting with 20 people I'd never met before. I was put into a leadership position, and the company was moving. Things were moving extremely fast. Yeah. And it changed my life because I wasn't prepared. And I remember being in that room and being tongue-tied. I couldn't put a sentence together. And the founder of the company, who had all the faith in the world in me, had to take over the meeting. He had to do the talking. And afterwards, I went to him. I said, I apologize. That's, that can't happen. And it's never happened again.
Wow.
There has never been another meeting that I've walked into that I haven't been able to find the words because I do the work up front.
When you say you do the work up front, what does that mean if you were going to give someone a step-by-step of what the work is up front? Obviously, everyone's actual work is different, but if there's a thesis of like 1, 2, 3, now you're prepared, how would you frame that?
It's a great question. The way I would frame it is taking a second. When you recognize that feeling that you have inside of like, okay, maybe this isn't right or this isn't going to work, I'm not ready for this, you need to harness that. Like you need to look within and figure out why is that?
Yeah.
And so I typically now take a second by myself and I start to walk through, okay, what is it that you're walking into and what can you do to prepare yourself? And I'll usually write it out. I'll list it out. Like, okay, I need to prepare this. I need to do this. And then I look at that list and I ask myself, what of these can I figure out on my own?
Yeah. What
of these do I already know? And what of these do I need to ask somebody else who's an expert in that so that I can be prepared? I have a big meeting coming up this afternoon. And the question I'm going to bring up to this person, like I can do 70% of what I need for this next project, but there's 30% that I'm not prepared for. And I know you have the answers. Can you sit and walk me through this? Because I don't want you to have to come into the room with me. I'll do that part, but help me understand what I need to know to walk into that room. So it's really just taking ownership of understanding that for you to provide the value in the room, you need to know what you do know and what you don't know and figure out what you don't know.
So creating confidence is being prepared for the room you're going to walk into.
Well said.
Right? But you can never be 100% knowing of what will come. And sometimes you are prepared, but you get caught off with a question. How do you deal with that in the moment of like, wow, didn't think of that?
Ego is the enemy. And your ego will tell you to just do your best to answer that question, or mine will.
Yeah.
It'll just be like, figure it out, create it on the spot. What I've become more aware of is that people appreciate more when you just are honest and say, I don't have that answer right now.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to move it somewhere else, people recognize that. If you don't have the answer and you try and shift the conversation away from it, they're still waiting for that answer. Or if you try and answer it and you don't know, they'll see through it.
Yeah.
I just honestly take ownership for it now. I don't know that answer, but I can find that answer. And I do immediately after, if I don't have that answer, you'll get an email from me saying, hey, you asked this question. I was unable to answer it in the meeting. Here's the answer.
I love that. I think that is the right advice as well. Switching gears.
Yes.
You were painted as the villain.
I was.
On Big Brother.
Correct.
Were you the villain?
Yeah, I was. Not because I am a villain, but I was the villain because the way that the game wants certain personalities to be portrayed, I was the villain-esque personality for them. Now, it doesn't make me a villain in real life, and I don't consider myself to be a villain, but I am somebody very much like you, which is why I gravitate towards someone like you, is because I'm very honest, I'm very direct. And in a game like this, that will be the character that is most villain-like. So yes, I was the villain, but not because I was doing anything wrong or anything that would be deemed to be disrespectful or hurtful, but mainly because it is hard to be told you're doing something wrong. It is hard to be said like, no, that's not true, or called out. And so when you're doing those things, your character is going to be portrayed a certain way. So I was the villain on the show, but in reality, I think my mentality and the mentality that somebody like you has, those people will go further in life because they're willing to take responsibility one way or the other.
On your season of Big Brother, what was the thing that was painted the most incorrectly about you? What instance did they do something completely different that you're like, that is the complete opposite of what happened? Not like close, that is completely different.
Loyalty is the most important thing to me in life. I will do anything for the people that I care about, whether it was in the game or in real life. And I made that very clear to them when I started auditioning for the show. I was going to stay loyal to the same people that were loyal to me. And in the house, when things got crazy, I stayed loyal, and I would have continued to do so. The unfortunate part is they chose to try and create like a storyline around like a love triangle or something like this. When in reality, it was very much that somebody who I trusted had turned on me.
Yeah.
And when you turn on me, I turn.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for him, I was much better at the game than he was. And so things shifted because of that. But the show made it seem like, oh, I was disloyal to someone who was loyal to me, when in reality that was the furthest thing from the truth. I just wouldn't do that. I couldn't do that because I couldn't walk out of the house after and have not stayed true to my values.
Yeah. When you're on Big Brother, you obviously have no idea what's happening in the real world. What was the experience like when you first realized what had happened in the real world?
It hit me like a ton of bricks. It did. I'm fortunate I went on the show at 35 and not 25. If I would have been 25 on Big Brother, it would have destroyed me for a period of time. Now, I'm not saying I wouldn't have got back up, but it definitely would have hit a lot harder. What I felt when I walked out was everybody was coming at me, and I just had to 10 toes down, looking ahead, hearing what everyone was saying, but not allowing everyone else's opinion to change what I knew had really happened or what I knew about myself.
Yeah.
Because everyone's trying to tell you they'll either feel bad for you, they're mad at you, they're threatening you, they're loving you, all of these different things. And I just had to sort of drown it all out and be like, wait a second, no, you were there, you know who you are, you've done the work.
Yeah.
Stay focused on that. But truly, it was like an avalanche. That's what it felt like when I first came out. It was every different emotion from every different person coming after me.
100%. And it's funny. Sometimes your rock bottom could be the biggest blessing. And I actually heard a quote once that I'm getting goosebumps thinking about. It said, don't ever hold someone back from their rock bottom. Because oftentimes that is the thing that changes your life and brings you to your tippity top.
Well, you need those hard moments.
So my question for you is, when you came off Big Brother and you got slandered all over social, what was the biggest blessing that came out of that for you?
The biggest blessing from it was that it was a reminder. Well, no, the biggest blessing was, I said this before, it was another scar on my heart, in the sense that it hardens you up to realize that you have to focus on you. You have to deal with things head on. You have to be true to who you are. Yeah. And then you need to find people like yourself. When you find people who are of similar mindsets, who have similar drive, you need to really just focus on spending more time around those types of people. And it allowed me to change my circle again a little bit. And I think we should always be doing that as we grow, finding more like-minded people. It really started to show me who was like me and who wasn't like me, and who had me and who didn't have me, and who gave a fuck and who didn't.
Yep.
So it was an opportunity to kind of reassess, reevaluate, and then regroup and go.
Yeah.
And I remember running into you and I'm trying to tell you about this scenario, and I'm watching you go, wheels turn, and you're like, what an incredible opportunity. I'm like, okay, where do you want to go with that? What an incredible chance you have. The villain can rebuild himself, get to the mountaintop, and hearing somebody just make it so simple and just see it as like man, I'm not worried about your emotions, how you feel. It's an opportunity if you want it to be. Yeah. That's what I took from the conversation. And truly, that's the mindset I had been trying to build and surround myself with. And right when I heard it, I'm like, he gets, yes, exactly. Mm-hmm. Thank you for making it clear again to me. Because sometimes you forget.
Well, there's that famous saying, right? Don't ever let a good crisis go to waste.
And PR 101.
And this is it. Is like, I may have even mentioned this in our conversation, but they ran a study of, if you go to a restaurant and get great service, you'll rate it an 8, for example. If you go to a restaurant and have a huge mess up, But the way they recover that mess up is beautiful. Like if they'll give you if they'll comp your meal, and if they'll invite you back for something, and they really are gracious, you'll actually rate it a 9 or a 10. So when you mess up and come back from it, people love you more than if you just never messed up.
Yes.
It's an interesting psychological thing, but that's why when there's a true crisis, you never want to create one because that's disingenuous. But when there's a true crisis, it is one of the biggest opportunities in the world. I had a friend, Brandon Peacock, we'll tag him up. He's amazing. He unfortunately was caught as a bystander in a drive-by shooting. And, he recovered, and then he went on this mission to help other people that have had traumatic events and pay for their medical expenses. And he started a charity, right? And I told him, I was like, from this point forward, you'll be able to go on stage and open with, when I was 22, I was shot 3 times. And you know what's going to happen? The whole crowd's going to go quiet, and they're in.
Yeah.
I can't say that. I don't actually have something off the top of my head that I can say that's going to the crowd instantly. So that crisis now becomes your biggest leverage and your biggest opportunity. And so if you're able to see it that way, wow, you're lucky.
It's really interesting you say that. And I have a follow-up question for you in that way. When you're hearing people sort of discuss the trials and tribulations that they've had in their own life, how often do you feel like they're able to connect to the positive that can come from it? And how often do you feel like somebody like yourself giving them that advice actually helps them see something through to the end, or use that as an opportunity?
Say the exact question.
Okay. When somebody's struggling with something and you're the person that they're coming to, which I think is probably very common. It could be business, it could be personal, but you have a very, let's find the positive. Let's find the solution for this. How difficult do you think it is for people to sort of grab that, and how much is it that like you are needed for something like that?
You have to be ready, right? I think at the beginning of a trauma, it's actually inappropriate to start talking about how great it is.
Right.
You have to wait for them to be past the shock of it and ready and seeking and willing to change. And so if they're in that state, I'm just going to say my honest truth because that's what I feel good about.
Yeah.
But, I've also learned that if, someone's in the moment, sometimes they just want you to sit with them.
Yeah.
And they don't want advice and they don't want tips, and they just want to feel like you're there for them. And so, the fact that we were having a business breakfast when we talked about this meant to me like, where's the opportunity here? Yeah. And when I was talking to Brandon, it was years after it happened and he had launched his charity, and I was doing some stuff to support it, and he was coming over to the house to hang out, and we just ended up having this conversation.
Right.
So it just has to be an appropriate moment where they're actually looking for the next chapter and the growth.
Yeah. It's well said. And I think belief in yourself is the most powerful thing that anybody can have.
100%.
And what you're describing, sometimes when you're at a low point, you haven't quite started the climb back up.
Yeah.
Once they've started the climb, somebody
Smiley says.
Once they've started the climb, someone like you wants that person to see how big they can become, how much potential that situation has. 100%. And it's such a powerful thing. It's truly one of the reasons I gravitate towards someone like you, is because you don't want anyone to think small. If they're willing to give you an inch to be like, hey, I want to be bigger, you'll tell them exactly how big they can get. 100%. It's just up to them if they believe it.
But it's so easy for me to tell someone else because I don't have the baggage details.
Right.
I just look at the variables and I'm like, there's your answer.
Yeah.
But I understand, because when I self-evaluate, there's so much more emotion and thought and knowledge and experience and all these different things that will cloud it. So I think sometimes going to somebody else who actually doesn't know all the details can sometimes see just the baseline facts and be like, oh, it's pretty simple.
It's so well said. Even for myself, like I've taken digital marketing in school. I've been in marketing positions. I've been in branding positions. Yeah. But when it came to building my personal brand, the first thing I said was, I need someone else's help.
Of course. Yep.
I figure it out on my own? Of course. Sure, but there's a million things that are stopping me from seeing the best in me. I need someone who can overlook all of that and understand, Zach, you have the potential to do anything. Just trust me that I'll help you unlock it because I'm not in the weeds of your own head.
100%.
And that's exactly what you've been able to do.
This is a perfect transition because you came off of such an interesting experience in Big Brother, and I'm sure you took some time, did some things, but you've settled on building real estate as an agent, as an investor. Tell me why that was the decision for you.
The reason I made that decision was it's an industry I understand. It's an industry where you can help a lot of people. There's a lot of collaboration. In a city like Ottawa, real estate is one of those industries where you can constantly grow and push and become bigger and better. And I saw myself as somebody who didn't want to take the easy route. I never have. And a lot of the positions that I looked at where it was going to be a steady paycheck, those to me weren't going to be fulfilling in the long run.
Yeah.
And I saw real estate, especially on the investment side of working with people who are either interested in developing real estate or buying like pre-construction units or multifamily units, whatever it may be. I saw it as an opportunity to help people become more successful and great.
Yeah.
And so other people's success is what fuels me. I love to see people happy, to see people winning. I played team sports my whole life. All I know is we all win together.
100%.
We all win or lose together. And this is an industry where I felt like I could help a lot of people win.
What do you think is the minimum amount you need to start investing in real estate? And you don't even have to buy something yourself. Like I'm talking like work with somebody else fractionally. But what is the smallest amount of money you can have to make an investment into real estate that will get the ball rolling in a way that's not like I put $5 in?
Fair. 50,000.
50.
When you get to $50,000, there's an opportunity for us to help you find either a partnership or a piece of property that we can work with you on. But I think 50,000 is a safe number. And the reason I say 50,000, you might be able to do it with a little bit less. But the reason I say 50 is because typically once you've hit 50, you have an idea of how to save. You're in a mindset where you understand money a little bit better. You have a better relationship with money, and you're not going to feel like this has to be an instant success for you to be happy and content. Money, our relationship with money, everyone's relationship with money is different. First of all, it's like, how do I make it? Okay, and once I started to make it, how do I spend it? Okay, and then once I've started to look at how I'm spending it, how do I save it? How do I invest it? There's a lot of different topics that go into money. And so I think once you've hit a point where you've actually been able to save some, it's when you should start to look at how to invest it.
Do you think people should be buying homes so young?
Everyone's situation is unique. I think real estate is a great asset to have as a part of an investment portfolio. I think when you're buying your home, your first home, of course it is a really great decision and it can definitely help you. The sooner you can get into the game, the better, because the values will go up if owning a home is extremely important to you. I buy real estate as investments. I don't live in the houses that I own. I live in a house that I rent because I would prefer somebody else to deal with the maintenance and to deal with the issues. I buy homes as an investment. So I have a very different outlook on it. When people are looking to buy a first home, I see it from a business standpoint as well. And I really try and make it very clear to them of like, don't make this an emotional decision.
Yeah.
Think about it from a business standpoint, because in the end, you will end up selling it. Something's going to happen. You need to see it from a business mindset. So getting into real estate young, if you're seeing it from a business perspective, is great. If you're just seeing it as like, okay, I need a home because it's important, because I got to settle down, I got to have kids, to me, that's not the race that I think is the race that is worth running that young.
Do you think people that are young are pushed to buy homes without fully understanding the implications of home ownership?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I know you're an honest guy. And I think this specific moment could actually help a lot of people. When you buy a home, what is the upfront costs that go into that purchase? You don't have to detail the amounts, but just the things to consider. And then also, what are the monthly expenses that everyone's going to have when they own a home? Just labeling, like not going into the details. What are the things they should check off and be aware of? Well,
it's really important. Yeah. So when you're buying a home, you also have to keep in mind that you're going to need about 1.5% to 2% of the purchase price in closing costs, right? So you're not just going to have money down.
So we got the purchase price,
closing costs, Then there's the monthly fees. Depending on what you're buying, it can become extremely expensive.
What's a monthly fee?
So, for instance, I have somebody right now who's looking at buying a multi-unit. And she is in the process of considering, okay, I want to buy a 6-unit or an 8-unit property. And one of them has a common hallway, the other one doesn't, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm explaining to them, well, there's fire code that's involved in that as well. You're going to need to make sure that you have everything
standard, yeah?
Yeah, everything to standard. On top of that, one of the properties she's looking at is self-managed. The other one has a property manager. Okay, so when you're looking at your expenses, the one that has a property manager, if you were to self-manage it, you would make more. She said, oh, I'll just self-manage it. It's like, really, you're going to drive 45 minutes outside the city every time there's an issue? Probably not. Okay, so you need to factor that in. Maintenance. She's like, oh, this one's so much cheaper. Yeah, it's 25 years older than the other ones. So your maintenance costs, you need to have, let's say, 3 to 4% factored into that as well. So there's a multitude of different factors that come into play, especially when you're dealing in the investment space. People are just wanting to see, like, well, what's the cash flow? What is the number that I'm going to be able to make every single month? But what's really important is being extremely diligent on the expenses before you start worrying about the cash flow.
So honestly, for social media, I think this will be an amazing clip that I've never seen people talk about. If you're a first-time homebuyer, residential, you're going to live in it. I really just want to list out, like, in a year, what are the upfront and reoccurring costs? So I'll ask the question, so this will be clean.
Okay.
For a first-time homebuyer, they often don't know how expensive it is to own a home. What will be the upfront costs and the reoccurring costs of home ownership?
So the upfront costs are, obviously, you're going to need a down payment. Once you've put the down payment down, of course, there's going to be mortgage fees on top of that. There's going to be closing costs. So when it comes to closing costs, you're looking at things like lawyer fees, land transfer taxes as well. So there's fees there. Typically, people don't seem to factor in often enough that you're most likely going to need furniture and whatnot as well on top of that. And like, I've seen it multiple times where someone's like, oh yeah, I bought a house, I put everything I have. I'm like, that's amazing. So what are you going to live on? Like, what are you going to do here? You need to get furniture. You need to prepare yourself at this point now. A lot of times as well, people aren't factoring in. Let's talk mortgage for 1 second to add to that list. Whether you're going to do a variable or you're going to do a fixed rate is extremely important. I know a lot of people that were buying when homes were extremely expensive and they were getting mortgages and they weren't locking in that rate. And now all of a sudden they're seeing that variable rate came up and they can't afford their homes. So it's very important to kind of consider what type of mortgage you need.
Would that be called a finesse?
Yeah.
Breaks my heart to see people fall into like a trap like that.
And then when it comes to the monthly cost, of course, you're obviously going to have your heat, your hydro. You're going to have to figure out exactly what that's going to cost. A lot of times you'll see it, honestly, in older units as well. People buy a home and they haven't asked for, I always say, like, hey, let's get a year's worth of statements on the hydro, the heat, water. I want to see where everything is at, because you might realize you've bought a home and it's on a geothermal system, for instance. And next thing you know, you're paying like $500 more a month to heat your home. And you're like, what just happened? You have to make sure that you're doing the upfront work to make sure that you don't get caught in a situation like that.
What fulfills you about being a real estate agent? What are the aspects that people may not consider or may not even realize that you love about the job?
What I honestly love most about the job is the creation of wealth, like the opportunities that people can see long-term with real estate. I was out last night with an investor of mine, and we're working on a bigger project right now. And when we started to run through the numbers, you could see that he was like, wow, I didn't realize that this piece of land that I own has this type of potential. And so it's showing people that, hey, don't just look at it like this is all I have. It's like, well, what can that become? And showing them all of the different opportunities. So it's a collaboration. It's the collaboration that excites me the most. Working with people, working around people, and seeing other people succeed. It truly is what drives me.
Real estate being an agent in real estate seems very attractive to a lot of people, right? You get to look good. You get to be in beautiful homes all the time.
Fair.
You get to make your own schedule. You get to rip around. I used to have a roommate who was a real estate agent. And so I've seen some of the realities of being a real estate agent and how difficult of a job it is. For people considering being a real estate agent, what are some of the personality traits and some of the things they should consider before thinking that could be a good career choice for them?
If you're somebody who's at risk adverse, becoming a real estate agent is probably not for you. If you're somebody who's concerned about making every decision that is the easy decision or wanting to always make the easy decision, it's not an industry for you. You have to be willing to put yourself out there day in, day out. You have to be willing to truly build it as a business and not just wanting to be self-employed because you want the freedom. When you take on any new business and you're working for yourself and there is no paycheck that's coming in, you have to be extremely confident that you're willing to put the work and the time in. And being honest with yourself is the key to that. If you aren't comfortable doing that, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with having a great job and a great living and being in that space.
Yeah.
But real estate's not that space, and it takes a long time. Everyone says it's the worst time to become a real estate agent. I actually kind of thought, okay, this is the best time to become a real estate agent, because if you can start to build a brand now, if you can start to really become successful in this space, we'll see what happens when the market's hot. And you also have to, and this is a story about my conversations with you. I remember, we're working on some marketing, some branding, and I call you, I'm like, bro, I'm spending money here, I'm spending money here, and a lot of these commissions aren't going to be coming in for a period of time. And so I'm not sure if I want to spend more money over there. And cold stop, but the money's coming in, right? And you're going to make it because you're working hard and you're good. And I'm like, oh yeah, true. All right, let's spend the money. Let's go. All right, I got it. Let's spend it. You can't play scared in this space if you want to be successful in this space.
And that moment was, in my opinion, winner recognizing winner.
Correct.
Right? If I said that and it didn't land instantly, I would instantly be like, oh, maybe you're not the guy. Because that's the winning mindset of of course I'm going to make the money. Of course. And it's coming. And I'm logical. I understand what I'm doing now. I'm making these connections. You close the deal. It's the money. It's on the way.
Correct.
And so I think that's a reason why we see eye to eye and we can move quickly and make decisions quickly, is because we're on the same page about this stuff.
So the difference, what I think about business is a lot of people see it again, it's self-employment and then there's business.
Yeah.
When you're building a business, you need to have certain pieces in place to be successful. So whether that's someone in operations, marketing, sales, and you can only wear so many hats yourself and be successful.
Yeah. And so with hair like that, you can't wear hats.
Exactly. I can't even wear headphones. And when you look at it from that perspective and you start to say, okay, I've been in business a very long time and I want to build this as a business. Once you've started putting those pieces in place, you need to trust those pieces when they tell you, hey, no, this is how you need to do this, or follow through on this. Because what typically can happen is if you start to let the doubt sink in of oh man, well, what if I spend here? If I'm doing this, this might not work. No, I trust the people that I work with are going to put me in the best position to be successful. As long as I show up and do my part, they're showing up for me. You got to believe in them and you got to follow through.
And I always, when I'm in a moment like this, I always click out and go third person for a second. And I go yo, you're in the middle of the story. Realize that.
Yeah.
You're in the middle of the story. This moment will dictate if you are triumphant or a failure. Write the story.
The hero's journey.
The hero's journey.
We're all on it. Everybody, whether they realize it or not, is walking a hero's journey. You have all of the tools at your disposal to either be the hero at the end of the story or not. And if you choose not to be, it's no fault of anybody else's. It really is your decision. We all make our decisions. We have certain limitations, sure, but that shouldn't stop you from trying to reach the potential that you do have. And that's really all that comes down to. And that's truly been my mindset. And it's, again, something, you are at a point in your career where you're able to identify different people and businesses that you want to work with because they're like-minded. And what I have a ton of respect for is even when you and I are sitting there and I'm trying to convince you, like, yo, bro, do this with me. I want to do this. You were able to take a step back and the excitement was there. You're like, yeah, I love it. But let me come back to you and give you a full rundown of what I can and can't do, what I can commit to, what I need from you. And when you do that, when you set something up like that, the partnership is so clean, right? It's like, I know exactly what I'm getting from this person. I know what the expectations are from me. And it allows people to run.
100%.
And you can become the hero in your own journey when you're identifying where you need to slow down, what you need to think about before you start running.
100%. When you think about real estate marketing, if I was a new agent, what would be the number one tip you would tell me?
Don't be like every other agent. It's very easy to look at what other agents are doing and say, oh my God, that must be what makes them successful, is that they're posting this about themselves or posting this about the houses. It's a lot about the real estate. I think the biggest challenge that we all have, and again, something that you helped me identify as a need, was to show the personality as much as you show the real estate, and making sure that you're willing to be the personal brand as much as you are the real estate agent. And I think real estate agents, you see it all the time right now. They're flipping from one brokerage to the other thinking, oh, they're going to help me here. They're going to do that. No, it all comes down to you doing it for you. And so the personal brand and the marketing, that's step one of you saying, I'm willing to invest in myself. Accountability, exactly. And it's like, I have to do this because if I don't post, no one knows what I'm up to. No one sees me. No one has any idea that I'm doing anything.
100%.
Oh, I'll just post a few houses. Cool, man. I'm going to tap right through that. Like, you have to come up with content that showcases who you are.
And anytime you're building a personal brand, right? You are trying to build affinity with the audience, with you as a human. You're not building a company logo. That would be a company logo brand, which is then more direct of the company, right? You're building a personal brand. And as a person, you have so many beautiful traits about you, so many interests, so many hobbies, so many ideas. You have a broad life. And of course, you can choose to omit certain things. You want to keep your family private. You want to keep that fine. But only showing one thing about you is the worst decision you can make about a personal brand. And what we've always worked on is love and proof. This is our concept, is proof. I sell homes. I have client testimonials. I have people that are saying I'm the best. I do this. I do, like, showing that you have the results. Now, once that is done, you are now in competition with all the other good realtors who have the same thing. It's not special. Everyone, or not everyone, a lot of other realtors have that. Now the question becomes, how do you stand out? And that is the love side. How do you connect deeper? And that's like a battleground. That's where anything goes. It's a wide open white space of, I can be as creative as I want. I can do anything. And I'm battling head to head with every other realtor to be better than them in the love category, the connection category. There's a tattoo artist in Ottawa I found like 2 days ago because he collaborated with a videographer in Ottawa. And it was genius what he's doing. He's a sick dancer. And so he literally makes these like dance videos, but they're like shot almost like a movie. Like, they're shot amazing. And throughout it, he features his tattoos. And when you go to his page, there's actually photos of all the tattoos. He has like 200,000 followers. He's a tattoo artist in Ottawa.
Amazing.
And it's like, because he has the proof, he has the photos of the tattoos, but now he makes dance videos to captivate everyone and basically show his personality of like, oh, this guy's awesome. This guy's fun. This guy's unique. This guy's creative. And he makes good tats. I want to get a tattoo from him.
And what did he need? Like, simplify it to the point of like, okay, what did he need to do that? Because other people are like, oh, well, how am I going to be able to do it? All he needed was a phone and discipline to follow through on an idea.
And
self-belief. That's all it takes. It's like, hey, you said it early. This is amazing. Everybody can be amazing. You just have to believe that you are and find a way to show your audience that you are. Believe that you can build the audience. We talked about this earlier. One of your boys is 289,000 followers on Instagram. And of course, as a good friend you're like, ask him how many TikToks he's got. 2 million followers on TikTok. And we discussed this where he got on a Will Smith video. It's like, yo, that's cool. And he said, luck or whatever. And instantly being surrounded by the right people, everyone's like, man, it's not luck. Like, you put the work, you put the time, you built that audience. It was the first video. I'm sure he did not feel so good about it to where he is at now.
Yeah.
He's grown so much. It's just the belief. It's just like turning the camera and starting is all you have to do.
100%. And I think if you're willing to quote unquote fail, if you're willing to put out a couple pieces of content that like nothing does happen, if you're willing to continue moving forward, one day you'll put out a piece of content and it may not even go viral, but you'll get like 2 or 3 DMs from people that say something that's actually meaningful.
Yeah.
That's not like fire emoji, but it's like, honestly, I really needed to hear this today. Thank you. I love watching your journey.
Yeah.
And I'm getting goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you can run through a wall.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, oh my God, I'm changing the world. And that fire will never die.
So I have a question for you, because you're somebody who is extremely self-motivated and driven. And it's one of the things I admire most about you. But when it comes to creating that mindset within yourself, what are the tips that you could give people to say, yo, if you do these things every day, if you build your life out this way, you'll start to really grasp what it's like to be in complete control?
It's interesting where my head went. My head went to, I always go third party. I zoom out of myself and I go, if I was a person looking at myself and I made the decision to stop, I would call that person a loser. Am I a loser? No. Well, I'm a winner. What would a winner do? They'd persevere. Like, it's really what I do. I go outside of myself and I look at myself from a third party view. I almost see myself as a winner looking at myself currently and go, if that person quit, would I say they're a loser? I'd be like, yeah, they are a loser.
Do you still have...
Because they lost, not because of,
Yeah.
When you don't win, you lose.
Yeah, there's only those two outcomes.
Yeah.
It is that black and white. Do you still have moments where you start to wonder, is this working? Should I keep doing this?
Have you seen my Instagram? Like, I lost my Instagram years ago. I restarted it, but my videos don't slap yet. I put out videos every single day and they don't go viral. I'm in it. I get less views than you.
Well, yeah, I mean, come on.
I get less views than you. I get less views than the guys here that are shooting my content. Right? But I, as the competitive person I am, believe I will win. And like, I'm actually in it right now. I'm losing micro, but I know I have it and I will not stop till I get it.
It's so
And then the best part is this is on video when I only get 1,000 views a reel, 1,000 views. And I've actually put out over 100 reels if you actually put it together. But recently I restarted, I put out about 15. And I'll be able to clip this in 4 years. And then in the captions say, this is why you should never stop.
Yeah. It's so true.
How cool is that? But once again, what I just do, I just
Third
zoomed
party.
out.
You went third party.
And I said, I'm in the story.
Yeah.
And I want to make that video in 4 years and inspire people and show them I'm actually in the video I'm going to post later this second.
Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps. That's freaky.
Oh,
But when you have that perspective, now I'm fired up and actually feel like I'm winning even though I'm not.
You are winning, but you are because you show up you haven't lost if you keep showing up. How can you lose?
I actually think
up?
you have it hasn't been determined yet.
Fair.
Which is fine.
Fair. But and you know, I want to ask you something because I think this is really cool. And you were the first person who ever said it to me this way. And we're so honest and willing to be like, this is what drives me.
I know what you're going to say.
I want you to do you remember the conversation? We were at breakfast and you explained to me because I think I was like, what motivates you? What? And it was, you hit it. And I was like, damn, this guy is so locked in with who he is as an individual that he's so comfortable saying it and doesn't care what anybody else thinks.
Yeah. Well, you didn't say it yet.
No, I want you to say it, bro, because it's
what?
What's that? You love to be admired.
Made you say it.
But you said it, man, and it was powerful.
Say it
man.
again, though, clear.
I like to be admired. I love to be admired. I'm driven by being admired. And it was the coolest moment for me when I sat there, because it was like, damn, he's willing to admit what really matters to him, regardless of what others think.
So it's so funny. I'm going to take this in a different direction.
Please.
We're in Ottawa right now. I drove here last night, me and my girlfriend. And this is going to sound weird where it starts. I get her to Google the definition of a narcissist. I'm like, it's not that I thought I was a narcissist. I actually ended up being correct of like what I thought. I'm like, I think I have like 70% of the characteristics of a narcissist, but I think I don't have like the bad ones. And I started saying like, I don't think I want others to feel pain. Like I don't want to hurt anyone. I want to be honest. Like I have those values, but I also think I'm great. I have a lot of confidence. I'm very convicted. I think I'm going to win. Like, and so I was like, Google it. And then she literally, bro, starts listing the character. And I'm like, first one, yep. Second one, yep. Wait, third one, yep. Fourth one, yep. Fifth one, wait, yep. And then like, thank God she got to like all 10. And like the last 3 were like, they're very envious. They want, to make others feel bad, essentially. They have no empathy.
Wow.
And I was like, okay.
That's not you.
I know I don't have those.
Yeah.
But in my head, I was like, yeah, like I understand like thinking you're great. Like I don't think, and what I then said to her is like, I wish more people thought they were great.
Thank you.
I wish more people thought they were great.
Yeah.
Like that's the opposite of depression. It's thinking you're amazing and thinking every day is good. Like what a beautiful existence, right?
We are so lucky to have people with that mentality.
100%. And so going back to what you said, yes, I understand about myself. I like to be admired. And you can judge that, you can hate that, but it's my truth. When someone admires me, it feels good. It does. And it may not be that way for you, but it is that way for me. And you'll see what question I end this pod with, but I know it has something to do with my mission of impacting people over my life and how it refuels me. When I impact people and they admire me, I get more energy to do it again and do it again and do it again. And so, people can judge me, say what they want, but that is my truth. And I try to act in a way that, is only embodying the positive characteristics of something like, that you love admiration.
It's powerful. And I'm going to tell you a story quick. I listened to a Joe Rogan podcast, and Joe Rogan's talking about how somebody like John Jones, back in the day, John Jones would have been the person that we all rallied behind because he would have saved us. He would have been like, hey, we need this guy to battle this next community or battle this whatever it would be. It'd be like, hey, when we need a warrior, that's our warrior. Your mentality, what you're describing, I hate the label narcissist. I hate those types of terms because it blankets people into like, well, they've got a certain parts about them, this, that, the other. You are just somebody who leads by example, who wants to win, and he wants to be surrounded by people that are like-minded. Yeah. It's a power. It's a superpower to be that because it allows other people to gravitate behind you and be like, all right, let's win.
100%. So I'll ask one more question before we get to the kicker at the end. A deep one. It's not like, it's interesting. It's fun. Through our activities marketing together, so far, our conversations, what we've put out, where we see the vision, what is something that you learned that like you really were like, oh my God, I never realized that?
You realize that as long as the content feels good to you, you don't need to worry about anything else. You don't need to worry about how many likes you get, how many followers you can get. You can start to understand, okay, how can I be more captivating for my audience?
Yeah.
But just putting the content out there creates such a belief and a relief that it starts to become so much easier. And I thought it was going to feel harder and harder and harder because that's what you build it up in your head. But in reality, it's the reverse. You put the content out there. I'm not even counting the likes. I'll do it because it's important but I'm not doing it because it's like, oh, I need people to like my stuff. It's like, I'm putting this out there because I like it and I think it's going to bring value to what you guys are up to. And I think I can help people.
Yeah.
And if I do that, we all win. That made it so much easier, and it's making it fun. I'm enjoying it now. I was in the early, I don't think I could do this, but I just refused to quit. It's like, no, get through it, trust it. And now I'm enjoying it.
I love that. What is your favorite piece of content that we've done since you started working together? And it could even just be like a photo that you took. Like, it doesn't have to be one that we collaborated on, but like, since we started, what's your favorite piece that you've put out for you personally?
So I think the piece that I've felt most connected with was when I was extremely me. And that was the post where it hasn't even come out yet. It's coming out this week. It's actually today, where I talk about a real estate investment that I made, the first house I bought, and how it didn't go great.
Love it.
It was not my proudest moment, and I own it. I'm like, I thought I knew better than them. I thought this, and being me and kind of in storytelling in that way feels really good, because again, it puts a smile on your face. You talk about what, you love to be admired. I love to bring people's like happy, like I want to make you happy.
Yeah.
And so that video, when I filmed it, I could tell right away by the videographer's response. I'm like, oh yeah, this is going to make people laugh. Like there's a good message, but it's also true, and it's who I am. So that video felt really, really good.
I love that. And I think one of the most beautiful things about building your personal brand is you're forced to self-reflect on yourself, because you post things and then you get to see side by side, post after post. I personally like that. I don't like that. Ooh, I'd change that. Oh, and then as you scroll up the page, you actually get to see your brand morph into a truer essence of like who you are and what you want to leave into the world. I think it's a really interesting experiment from that perspective. And yeah, go on.
I want to add something to that. So this is an admission of something where the first week we filmed, I do all this stuff and I'm in my own head. I didn't even watch it. Really? Then the stuff goes up, and I watch a video and I'm not happy with it. And then I'm like going through it, and I call you. I'm like, man, what the heck is going on? And you're like, hey man, you need to be dialed into what's important. I was so afraid to watch it because I was so like, I'm like, man, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like I'm on socials. I was like paralyzed by it. And then I get on a call with you, and you were like, well, you need to take ownership for what it's going to look like. And I'm like, I hang up the phone and I'm like, all right, yeah, he's right. And it wasn't because I don't want to do it. It's because I was letting fear stop me from taking the responsibility and accountability that I needed to with my stuff. So even that lesson alone is worth more than anything else I could have possibly spent money on when it came to marketing, because it was like, hey man, that fits every aspect of your life. Like you have to be all in, and you have to be willing to look at it and suck and fail and succeed, all of them. But you got to you have to show up.
100%. And even like, if we're being open and vulnerable right now, like last week I ran a test, right? I put a bunch of B-roll footage and I wrote quotes over it, right? I did 5 in a row. Not because I was like, oh, this is my page now. I wanted to run a couple tests and see what would happen. And by the 5th one I posted, I was like, dude, this sucks. Like, obviously I'm not on social saying my content sucks,
of course,
but in my own head, I'm like, this sucks, but I'm so glad I did it.
Yes.
And now I understand where that fits. And now I can move forward onto the next chapter, the next chapter, the next chapter. And so I think going into it with a growth mindset of like, even though this is me publicly, socially, I'm going to evolve into the version I'm so proud of in terms of my personal brand. But if I don't start and suck, just like if you make your first song, or if you go on your first date, or any of your firsts are going to be bad, or not great. But if you continue to go forward, you earn what you want at the end. And so I'm really proud of you. And the question I wanted to end with is an interesting one, because being vulnerable, once again, like I love admiration, right? One thing that shocked me over the last like 4 or 5 months, I read a bunch of books, and 2 nights ago I realized all these books have one thing in common. They're all have a feature about your personal mission. So I read Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Pat Bet-David, which has a whole chapter on mission. I then read Alchemist, which talks about personal legend the whole time.
Yeah.
Before that, I read Ikigai, which is the Japanese way to living. And Ikigai is your ultimate purpose. I read Man's Search for Meaning, which is the title. And so literally all back. And then I read Richest Man in Babylon, which was the first one. So like that's just cash. But I read 5 in a row that all had like a mission-based theme. And I started going, okay, well, what's my mission? And bro, I was blank.
Wow.
And for a guy like me that really is trying to be intentional and thoughtful, I was shocked that I couldn't even start to piece it together. And it really made me go, this is the thing I need to understand for a lot of reasons. But to keep it simple, I need to figure out my personal mission now. And of course, you can't just decide it. You have to feel it. So but 30 minutes a day I spend on mission every day. And I'm going to find it, which leads me to the question. Have you found your mission? If so, go on that. If no, how does that make you feel? Do you care about it? Are you searching for it? Take it either way.
It's a great question. And my response will almost make people think we've talked about this before, which we did not.
Okay.
But when I first started talking to you about the personal branding, you said something to me on the call about eventually you can start doing talks. You can start getting in front of audiences. And it hit me where I stopped thinking about, okay, real estate specific branding and marketing is important and I love it and I'm passionate about it. But what I'm passionate about most is helping people and taking the difficult moments that I've had in my life, some of which I've never shared, some of which I'm yet to share because I don't think it's the right time, it's the right space just yet. Things like Big Brother, where you have to hit rock bottom. Rock bottoms I've hit previously that I've shared on. So all of those lessons make me want to help people. I genuinely want everyone to feel good about themselves because I know the difference between when you do and when you don't and how much better life is when you do.
Yeah.
And eventually I would love to be able to help others find that happy. And I do that with humor all the time.
Yeah.
Like I recognize that humor is something that makes people happy and it makes them laugh.
Yeah.
But there's other emotions, there's other ways you can help with that.
Yeah.
And as I grow, I want to start being more comfortable using other emotions to help other people feel good.
I love that.
That's the long-term goal.
Powerful. As someone who's into humor, give us your best real estate joke.
Why didn't how did the realtor realize that their client was a ghost?
Because they ghosted them.
Good answer. Because they kept asking for a haunted house.
Zach Neilson. Thank you.
There it is.
Where can everyone find you?
Oh, bro. Was that good?
That was fire.
That was great, man. Fuck, he's good at what he does, eh?
Good man. He's a good talker.
Yeah, man. You're so...
Do you know this is the first time I've ever hosted a podcast?
Really?
Well, obviously there was one right before you, but this day is the first day I've ever hosted a podcast.
I think you're made for it.
I know.
Seriously.
I know. And I think I was also made to ask that mission question to help me find my mission
Oh.
through the pod.
That is...
Where can people find you though? Bro?
Oh, that was it. Don't worry about me. Let that sink in for a second. Damn. It's true. It's true. I think self-reflection is something you have a unique ability to. I think one thing I know about you is like when you're alone, you know how to use your alone time effectively.
Yeah.
A lot of people when they're alone is when they're at their worst.
Or, you know what I've really realized, sorry to cut you off.
No.
Is people distract themselves without realizing it, right?
Exactly.
So I'll give you an example. I drove here 30 minutes. I purposefully did not listen to music or a podcast and decided I'm going to think about my mission for 30 minutes while I drive there. Whereas people don't even consider that. They're like, okay, what song am I putting on? As soon as they get in.
Yeah.
And so I think when you are alone, thinking of like, how could this time be used powerfully?
Well, that's somebody who's looking for more answers. Like
Yeah.
you're on a path of discovery, the
Yeah.
mission. Again, when you have your cell phone in your hand, you're driving, you're scrolling, you're
Not
playing
while
different
you're
music. No, but people are like, that's what I'm saying. Like people are doing 20 different things in a moment where they could take 20 minutes to themselves.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how hard that has become for people.
Yeah. Even so now where I live, I walk to work, just 10-minute walk. And I used to listen to a podcast as I walk without thinking. I just throw in a podcast. And then I realized whatever I'm listening to first thing in the morning, as I walk, is like priming me for like the second I get to the office. And I'd notice sometimes I get to the office and I'd have a headache. And it's like, it's because I woke up and the first thing I did was have someone start talking in my ear. And it's like taking that time to just be silent, even if you're just not even thinking, just be present, just look around, just walk, is actually, can be very healthy for your mind. So that when you do choose to use it, you have energy.
Yeah. And even to build off that, if you don't want to do silence, my workouts, first thing in the morning, I used to listen to music. Okay, it didn't do it for me anymore. I started listening to podcasts about whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Started listening to business, started audiobooks. All of it's gone.
Yeah.
I listened to motivational speeches over and over and over again, because after an hour and a half of it being driven home that you can finish the rep, you can do that. I take that mentality and I'm reminded of it all day.
Okay, let's see something here. Don't say it. We're gonna go 3, 2, 1, say it at the same time.
Okay.
Who gives the best motivation? Okay. Do you have someone?
Like, you want me to pick someone that I listen to? Okay.
Well, yeah. If you had to pick one person to listen to for motivation forever, who would it be? Don't say it. We'll go 3, 2, 1, then we'll say it. Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Tony Robbins.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. David Goggins is up there.
Tony Robbins, eh?
Yeah, man. Tony Robbins, if you
You
really
and the moms.
if you listen to where he came from to what he's built and the mindsets that he's had to have and the people that he's been able to help.
Yeah.
Like, I always find it fascinating where the people we think are at the mountaintop, well, who are you going to? Guys like David Goggins, they go to David Goggins. They go to these guys like Tony Robbins. It's like even the people at the top still need other people's help to stay at the top.
Yeah.
They don't get there and coast. They don't get there and think like, oh, I'm here, I'm good.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I got to surround myself with more of these like-minded people to stay there. So
Tony,
I think Tony's
special, bro.
Yeah.
For sure.
David's a unique breed. I listen to him as well. Like David Goggins.
I mean, if we were going purely motivate, like Tony gives like great business advice. Like he's holistically more helpful.
Yeah.
But if I'm trying to break a PR, Goggins is screaming at me.
Oh, it would help. It helps.
What did you say? You don't know me? Or
Stay hard. But it's true.
Okay.
My guy.
You got to.